So let's get started, and welcome to our refresher webinar in June of 2021. We've been doing these for a couple of years now almost, I think. And so remember, I've got them scheduled on the second Wednesday of the month from 10 o'clock. I try to keep them to 45 minutes. And if you do miss it, like I said, I'll have it posted on the YouTube channel. And if you ever want to go to that, if you just search for my name, that'll come up. And I've got all the classes on there. I've got a mindfulness challenge, which I'm thinking about doing again this summer. So if those are great ways to refresh yourselves in your practice and reboot. And that's kind of what this is about today, is rebooting, recommitting in a variety of ways, simple, easy ways. But also what I love about all this stuff is that it can get deep, and we can really learn a lot about ourselves and, really about the world and the universe, if you think of it that way. So our interconnectedness. So it's pretty amazing what mindfulness practice, I think, can do for us. So let's just start with a pause, as we often do, and we'll just take a moment to step out of doing into being and just step back. And what I'm going to ask you to do is put your hand up in front of you, and then, look at your hand with your fingers kind of spread out, and then just simply, as you breathe and focus on your breathing, trace your thumb all the way up to your fingers, and just trace the whole outline of your hand with your other finger. You can see what I'm doing there. And then when you get to the end, just go back and do the rest. So you're tracing in reverse, continuing to focus on your breathing. Okay? And that's a quick pause. And that's just a simple way to kind of pay attention to the visual sense, but also the feeling sense, and to kind of ground you. And this is one of the practices that I'll be mentioning from that New York Times 10-day fresh start challenge. It's apparently it's used for calming down a little bit. If you're having an anxious moment, that's a good practice you can use, because it can actually help us kind of get out of the thinking mind. Usually when we're anxious, there's a lot of thoughts, there's a lot of worries, there's, that kind of spinning going on. And so that helps to kind of, ground us a little bit. All right, so just going to open it up a little bit and ask folks, how are you doing? If there's anybody would like to share a little bit of what's working or what's getting in the way in terms of either your formal practice. Hopefully you're finding some time to sit and do some formal meditation on a regular basis. I think that's really when we get the best bang for the buck with this stuff, but also informally. And I'll be talking about a bunch of informal ways. But, just paying attention to everyday practices, every routine activities. Also, this is a wonderful time of year for paying attention to nature. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that too. But I put you all on mute. So if you want to speak up, or you can use the chat. How's it going? And I'll stop talking, and if anybody would like to share. You don't have to, but would love to hear from you how it's going.
I think that for me, the decrease in the COVID number of patients we have in the hospital, kind of coinciding with the emergence of summer, has kind of pushed me into, going outside more, even though that was never really a barrier. It just seems more welcoming, and I have more energy for that kind of those kinds of behaviors and activities. And, I spend more time outside than I had been, and I'm really rejoicing in that, for lack of a better word. It maybe sounds too much, but I'm recognizing the joy that I get from doing that.
Well, that's a perfect example of, I think, what I would call savoring. Well, first of all, the awareness that you're feeling a little bit more open to going outside, that's that internal awareness. But then when you do, really noticing and being aware of the beauty and the joy and connecting with that in a mindful way, and that's the savoring part of it. That's, really stopping and smelling the roses. So Andy says he uses the 10% Happier app every day, which I'd use that too. It's really a great app. You do have to pay for it if you want the full thing. I think it's like $60. They used to give either a discount or a free year subscription if you're in healthcare, so I don't know if they're still doing that. But anyway, it is a very good app. I agree. And also the podcast is very good. The podcast every Friday has a brief meditation that they do. So it's another way to get it. Robin, listening to meditation before bedtime is working to help with letting the stress of the day go. Yeah, good. So you found a good time that really works for you to let go of all the stress. And, letting go and letting be, that's really a big part of what this practice kind of helps us with. So that's good. Good to hear, Robin. And Jim, I have integrated mindfulness into my coaching practice for myself and also my clients to reposition our discussions. Great. Yeah, well, one thing I don't do too much, I should do more of this. Mindfulness practices really can help with mindful listening and communication skills. And so often when we're listening to somebody, our mind is trying to figure out what we're going to say and what's on our agenda, instead of really listening and really responding on a feeling level, on an active listening level. So that's great. Good to hear that, Jim. Any problems people are encountering? What's anything getting in the way? Anybody wants to bring up or pose a question about or anything? And I'll also add in, anything that you need from me or from, for your practice. Yeah, my very short attention span challenges me on my meditations, but it's a constant effort. Well, yeah, and I think, most of us have a short attention span these days. I've talked before about VUCA, volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity. And those are all things that, really distract us and give us a short attention span. So, it's not surprising, I think, that we're all feeling that way, especially, and then just add on to this, our digital world, there's so many different things that vie for our attention on a minute to minute basis. I feel very scattered at times too. So keep it up. That's good. I mean, what you can do, actually, we're going to talk about this in the last meditation today, Andy, where we'll be focusing on those thoughts, on those things. So, we have the anchor of our breath or our body, but then we can also focus on the thought itself. So we'll be doing that in the second and the last meditation. I struggle at times with the concept of just letting things be. I seem to want resolution and find myself impatient at times, even with myself. Well, I mean, I would say that's really good to even just notice that makes you a little impatient, and then noticing that. I mean, that's what the insight's all about, right? We begin to learn about those patterns that we have and those little impatient things and those habits, really that have grown in us, in our thinking. and in our feelings and in our body over the years. So, but I have to agree. I think the concept of letting be is a more difficult concept. I did a meditation recently. It's not recorded. I'm trying to think how I can get it to you. Pretty sure I've got it on the YouTube thing. Well, anyway, I can certainly send it to you. I have a written script of it, and it's kind of talks about letting go. And I think of it this way: letting go of stress and tension. I can, meditate and relax and allow the tension and stress to leave the body and drain away. Letting things be is more about accepting things as they are, right? And so a practice would be to kind of, as you meditate, notice thoughts, notice feelings, notice body sensations as they are. Don't try to fix them. Don't try to do anything with them. And just see if you can integrate that into your practice and let them be. But I do think that that's definitely, something that we all struggle with. And it's something that kind of I'm talking about a little bit today, in that it's part of the deeper practice, I believe, that letting be is not that easy. When I let it be, I don't discount my feelings about the ambiguity, but acknowledge my feelings and find it easier to let it be after that. Good. Perfect. I'm glad you said that, Barbara. That's such a great observation. So don't give yourself a little compassion. Self-compassion is important here. So notice the ambiguity, acknowledge the feelings, and then it might be a little bit easier to let it be after doing that. So that's a great piece of advice. Wonderful. Well, thank you all. These are great questions and observations. So what I'm going to do now is move on to this. This is, I sent this out, this article, Getting Back into Shape Mindfully, in the last Mindful E-Tip. And I don't know if you had a chance to read it, but it's from 10% Happier, from their blog. And one of their meditation instructors is Jay Michelson. And so as you read this quote, it's what he's trying to do is, just to give you the backstory, is he's trying to lose some of this COVID weight. And so he's going on an intermittent fasting diet, which means that he's not eating for longer periods of the day, right? And so he's noticing hunger pains and discomfort. And so that's what he's talking about here. So having meditated for around 20 years now, I know how to be with unpleasant sensations, from trivial ones like knee pain and annoying sounds to serious ones like family trauma and self-judgment. In fact, the process for all these, serious and silly alike, is strikingly similar. Notice the feeling, accept it with some self-compassion, and just allow it to exist without doing anything about it. So that might help with the feeling of, being impatient about something. Just notice it, give yourself some compassion, give yourself a break and allow it to be there. And that's it. That's letting be, in a sense. Practicing that is one way to do it. So that's a good article. But he goes on to say that the process sounds simple and it's kind of counterintuitive, because we do many things to get rid of these unpleasant feelings. We shift our position, we get drunk, we think of something else, we pretend nothing's wrong. Some of these strategies are healthy, some are not so healthy, but they're all intended to make the bad stuff go away. But the basic instruction of mindfulness is the opposite. Just let it be. So it's really pertinent. Sensations arise, you notice them and let them go. If they arise again, you notice them again, hopefully with some patience, self-compassion, and even humor. And here, that's the script about how unworthy I am. Here's my inner critic. Hello, critic. So he's kind of like joking around about his inner critic. But that's the same thing, kind of like letting that be as well when you notice the inner critic rise. So anyway, I'm just sort of summarizing, and it's a great article. So if you haven't read it, you might want to go back to that. So some of the practices I wanted to, some of these are from that New York Times Fresh Start, which is the last bullet here. And we did, as the pause, we did the meditate on the go. So if you want to read more about that, that's the second bullet, which is the hand tracing. So you put up your hand and you trace it with your finger and you go one way all the way through and then you go back. And it's, a really quick 1 minute type of exercise that can help calm and center. And then he also says, this is from Dr. Judd Brewer, who was originally from Yale University. And kind of he's a mindfulness expert. He's a neuropsychiatrist and has some great stuff on anxiety on YouTube. And he's got a book, I think. So check him out if you want to learn more about that. But anyway, the other thing he says is to feel your feet. And that feet are kind of one of those usually anxiety-free parts of the body. So feel your feet, feel the groundedness of your feet, just really feel the connection of your feet, any sensations in your feet. It's another great way to kind of take the mind offline from any worry and anxiety that you might have. So let's go back to number 1 here, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And this is using the 5 senses. And so what you're doing is, and you can do this along with me as I talk through it, okay? So sit quietly, you can close the eyes. Well, actually, the first one is don't close the eyes, because we're gonna try to look at 5 things that you can see. So whether you have, a window or just your workspace or wherever you're sitting, just identify 5 things to look at. They could be colors or shapes or whatever. And just pick out 5 different things to see. Okay, and now the next is 4 things you can feel. So sensations. So it could be anything from, a sensation in your body, the feeling of your body in the chair, your feet on the floor, what we've just been talking about. Maybe a breeze on your skin. 5 different sensations. Or rather 4, sorry about that. And then 3 things you can hear. So open up your hearing, and as you do this, just notice the sound itself. Don't try to label it, just 3 different things you can hear. And part of that also might be 3 things you can't hear. In other words, paying attention to the silence between, in the space between sounds. And then 2 things you can smell. This might be getting a little more challenging, but see if you can identify 2 things to smell. And then 1 thing you can taste. Might be easier if you're having a cup of coffee or tea or something like that, but 1 thing you can taste. And that's a good grounding 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 practice that you might try as a simple, easy practice going forward. I had also sent out the article on forest bathing before in one of the earlier e-tips. If you want it, please let me know. But essentially, it's the idea of going into the forest and just paying attention to all your senses mindfully, and not walking or hiking as you normally would. So in other words, you're not hiking to get somewhere, but you're really simply, in a sense, almost aimlessly just paying attention to the sights and the sounds and the scents and the feelings as you walk through the woods. And it's forest bathing. It's actually a Japanese concept. And I do have that article if anybody wants that. Again, I'm happy to send it. And that kind of led me to thinking about mindful gardening. If there's any gardeners out there or anybody wants to think about gardening, great way to pay attention to the present moment while you're doing some gardening, whether it's weeding or planting or, harvesting. I used to have a bigger garden and I have a lot of shade now. So I've started really just gardening with herbs. And it really is a wonderful way to just bring yourself into the present moment. So you might try that. And then I had mentioned the Meditative Story podcast. And this is something I came across recently. And it's a podcast that actually Dan Harris had on his 10% Happier podcast. And he shared an episode where he told a story. And basically what this is it's a brief story of about maybe 10, 15 minutes. Somebody tells a story. They're all different stories, and you kind of immerse yourself in the story itself. But then the host breaks in with mindful prompts every few minutes. And then there's a brief meditation at the end. So I found it a great way to kind of combine a sort of an interesting meditative story, listening, who doesn't like listening to a story? But then, he'll break in and he'll say, what's your energy level right now? So even right now, what's your energy level right now? And pay attention to your feet as I'm talking. Or maybe notice your posture. Maybe take a deep breath. So it's those kinds of things that he interjects into the story, and then the story moves on. And then at the end, as I say, there's a brief meditation. So you can just search for it where you get your podcasts. It's easy to find, and it's free. So really, really a nice way to supplement your practice. And then the New York Times Fresh Start 10-Day Challenge. And that is where I've got a couple of these things. But when I send these out to you, I'll send them out after the session. I'm trying to pull up just to give you an idea of what so the first day of the challenge is, how are you really? Kind of like identifying really how are you feeling, what's your emotional state? And the idea of, and I've talked about this before, of just simply acknowledging our feelings is a way to kind of, really mindfully pay attention to them without pushing them away. So how are you feeling? That's the first. And these are, by the way, these are all very brief, 10 days. The second one, day 2, is let's have an exercise snack. So he gives a bunch of little suggestions for brief, really mindful movement exercising that you can do. And he calls them like a snack. So instead of thinking about, I got to go to the gym and I need to exercise for 45 minutes to an hour, maybe just pause and take 30 seconds or a minute or two to do, stair climbing or a stretch or a dance break or something like that, so exercise snacks. And then they go on. I won't go through all of them. We're going to actually do one called a fierce meditation. That's coming up next. And then talks about connection one day, resisting technology one day, meditate on the go. That's the hand tracing thing. Brush your way to a new habit. So he integrates like during your toothbrushing routine. So they're really, it's good stuff. There's the gratitude photo is day 8 that I was talking about in the beginning. Hug just a little bit longer, day 9. And then day 10 is give yourself a break, which I think is about a self-compassion break, which we've talked about before as well. So check that out. It's a great way to kind of refresh your practice with some, I think, more creative ways of bringing mindfulness into our daily life. So having said all that, let me just pause. We're going to do a brief meditation called a fierce meditation. It's not like fierce, but I'll explain why it's fierce. But any questions at this point? Okay, well, let's do this. This is not a long one. It's fairly brief, but it's the idea. This is actually from that 10-day challenge, so you can listen to it on a recording on that if you want to. And it's from a Reverend Angel Kyodo Williams, who I believe is a Buddhist priest. And she talks about that we sometimes make the mistake of thinking that meditation is an escape from stressful situations, that it's a way to kind of like, run away from our worries. But the fierce part of it really talks about the fact that we're confronting our fears and anxieties. We're confronting life as it is. So there's that topic again, letting it be. We're noticing things as they are internally in yourself, but also in the world. And that's what she calls the fierceness of the power of meditation and mindfulness to help you tackle whatever fear, anxiety, or challenge lies ahead. So here's the meditation. So take a moment to be as comfortable as possible, closing your eyes if you wish, although that's up to you. You can always keep them slightly open with a downward cast. And feel your feet. Notice the contact your feet make with the ground. Feel your seat. Notice your sit bones connected to the chair. And just ground yourself through the body. And take a gentle in-breath. And on the out-breath, extend your crown a little bit upwards towards the sky. And then settle. And as you settle, allow any tension in the body to fall away. And allow your attention to find your breath. And just follow the inflow and outflow of each breath. And consider that we often think of meditation as a way of escaping, going away from the world. But we have an opportunity to use meditation to strengthen ourselves, to be fierce, to meet the world just as it is, and to meet ourselves just as we are. As you return your attention back to your breath, you can be aware that each of us returns to a world that is different than what it was before. There's new ways of meaning and being with each other, and the life we had before may feel very different. And so now there may be a feeling of anxiety or uncertainty, but still we can return to ourselves. We recognize we have all experienced some kind of loss, and we can feel it in our bodies, and still return to ourselves again and again. Each of us have our own way forward into whatever it is to come. Whatever arises, we can return our attention to our breath, to ourselves, and to know that we enter into this new world together with all our feelings, our hopes, our fears and anxieties, and all of the possibilities. And we can return to ourselves and find rest and connection and trust in our own beings, in our own bodies. And we can do this together. And as we bring this formal meditation to a close, you can notice the space around you as you open your eyes and allow your attention to blend with whatever it is and wherever you are right now. All right, so that's a brief, fierce meditation from Reverend Angel Kyodo Williams, and that's again from the New York Times 10-day Fresh Start Challenge. Any thoughts or comments about that meditation? This photo, by the way, is taken by my son. He's an amateur photographer, but he loves it. This is up in Maine. Wow. Okay, cool. Yeah, that's what I thought. I mean, I read it, and then I did it, and I thought the same thing. It had much more of an impact when I did it. So appreciate that comment. Beautiful. Yeah. Amazing. Beautiful. Good. Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Maybe I'll record that and put it up on the page, but it is you can easily get to it if you want to do it again through that New York Times challenge. So this is back to that blog article by Jay Michelson. And I love it because remember, he was talking about losing weight and being uncomfortable and being hungry. And at the end of the article, it says, but we have a little secret. Mindfulness complements any approach you take and whatever issue you're addressing. So whether it's anxiety or eating or job stress or love, the advice is similar: to be with a sensation rather than grab it or push it away, to cultivate some self-compassion, and to witness whatever's happening, awake, aware, and engaged. So I think that kind of says it all, but the reason why I kind of put that in here today is that this next part and the meditation we're going to do gets deeper, I think, and it gets into the insights that we have about the internal weather, the thought patterns, the conditioned emotional responses we have to things. And we learn more about ourselves. I mean, it is such an exploration into our own self-awareness. And we learn more about how we think and respond and react react is the better word, to the world around us. And, we've had a really great training ground in the last year or so, because we've been triggered by so many things, and so many things have, jerked us around. And, it's been an emotional roller coaster, right? Whether you've been on the front lines or not, it's been difficult and challenging. And as that meditation said, we've had losses. We've all had losses. So it gets in, one of the, I'm not going to do this today, but one of the meditations in the class, if you recall, is the thought or emotions meditation. And it's where we really focus on the thoughts that are going through our minds. And this is what you might try. That thought meditation is really being aware of the thoughts coming and going, and not engaging with them, not getting rid of them, not thinking that there's anything wrong with, because there isn't. I mean, we're always going to have thoughts. We're in meditation, we're not trying to get rid of, or we're not trying to block thoughts. But in a standard meditation, we are trying to notice a thought and then come back to our breath or our body as an anchor. So that's the basic practice, right? Well, so what we're going to talk about now is the spectrum of awareness. And this is from the Little Book of Being, which is a great little book by Diana Winston, Practices and Guidance for Uncovering Your Natural Awareness. And she teaches this kind of three-part. So in other words, focused awareness, focusing on an anchor like our breath or our body or sounds. And then flexible awareness, where you begin to focus a little bit more on things that are happening in thoughts or emotions. And then natural awareness is when it just really all sort of just opens up. And I'm going to finish the meditation with something called the space of awareness, which is from Jack Kornfield, another, I think, really wonderful meditation instructor. And, I get, he's got a great stuff and a variety of sources. But anyway, so you'll see how this works. This meditation is a little longer, and I think does get a little bit deeper in a sense. And we'll go through all those three things: being focused, being a little bit more flexible, and then opening up to natural awareness and sort of this space of awareness. And it's kind of hard to explain, but you'll see once I get to that part of the meditation, more of what your experience is like. Okay. So let's do this. And I should say, let's be this and just sit comfortably again. And, by now you're probably very familiar with a good posture for yourself, whatever that is, whatever posture supports your ability to be in the moment, to be attentive, but also to be relaxed. And closing your eyes if you wish. And notice how you're doing in this moment. And be curious about your body and mind. And take some breaths, tuning into the breathing. And try to maintain an attitude of kindness, of settling into your own sense of being. It's right here for you in every moment, this human capacity to be aware. Starting with focused awareness, bring your attention to your meditation anchor, that which you always return to. If your anchor is your breath, receive your breath in your abdomen, chest, or nose, feeling the sensations of breathing, rising, falling, expansion, contraction. One breath ends and the next breath begins. Or your anchor can be sounds, and you can listen to the sounds come and go around you. Listen to them without getting lost in stories about the sounds. No need to analyze or reject a sound, just listen. And when your attention wanders, you can notice it, mentally say the word thinking or wandering, and then return your attention to your anchor. And keep returning every time you notice yourself lost in thought. Let all other objects, thoughts, emotions, sensations stay in the background and focus on your anchor. And return when you get distracted. Continue in this way for a moment. Now, when a new object, such as an emotion or a sensation, becomes very obvious, calling out to you, let go of your anchor and turn your attention to whatever this new object is. Feel the emotion or sensation in your body. Notice what happens to it as you pay attention to it. And stay with this new aspect of experience until it no longer holds your attention, until it stops, or until something else grabs your attention. Can you notice the changing nature of the object that pulls you away? Ultimately, you can return to your anchor, your breath or listening, but your attention has now become more flexible. So to explore fully flexible awareness, sensations, sounds, thoughts, emotions may be coming and going in the background. Let go of your meditation anchor and turn your attention to these background objects. Settle back and notice whatever is obvious to you as it arises and passes. No need to return to your anchor. There's a sensation, it increases, or a sound pulls you, then a memory, or you feel your heart, or you take a breath. There's a sensation in your foot, and so on. Emotion arises, a sound grabs you. These are examples, but you can notice what pulls your attention. It might be very subtle, or it might be more obvious. Just follow what is most obvious in your experience. And as you transition into natural awareness, I invite you to relax your body and mind. Rest. No need to try too hard. We are naturally aware. Your mind is aware without you doing anything. Can you sense and feel this awareness that's present right here all the time? Our minds are luminous, bright and radiant like the sun. Can you sense that? Rest, nothing to do. Let go of having to make any effort. Open your senses. And here's the trick. The body, the breath, the feelings, the thoughts that come and go like waves in the ocean. Who you are is the space of awareness. Like the sky that feels the body breathing, that notices emotions arising or passing, like clouds coming into the space of awareness. Relax into openness as if your mind is the sky and all your experiences are arising and passing like clouds in the vast space of your open mind. And rest in this open, living awareness. Marinate here for a while. And if you start to feel contracted or confused, you always have the present moment to return to. You always have your breath, your body. Then when you feel like it, relax into a more spacious knowing. You can notice thoughts dissolving into the space of awareness. Marinate in natural awareness for as long as you are drawn to. When you feel ready, you can conclude this meditation. It may help to, again, sense the breath, sense the body. Relax as you do this. And then when you're ready, and slowly, gradually open the eyes to finish the meditation. I'm going to finish with a bell. And sometimes, let's see how this comes across. All right, so that was the spectrum of awareness and the space of awareness. So, we're kind of at the end of our time, and I apologize, I'm running a little bit over. As usual, I should probably make this a little bit longer. But anyway, hope you enjoyed that. Let me know if you have any thoughts or questions. Please feel free to, yes, that would be, feel free to let me, to reach out if you have any questions. Would be a great screensaver. Thank you. Okay, good. Well, good that you could be with me today. I just going to give you a couple of quick reminders. We still have this class going on. There's a couple more sessions if you're interested. Develop Resilience. It's done by Vivian, my colleague. It's on LMS. Remember the EFR services. the phone meditations. I'll send this all out, and I'll leave you with this last quote by John Kabat-Zinn as we wrap up. And thank you all very much, and wishing you the best summer, whatever it brings. I hope you can get out there, and we know it's going to be quite a bit different than last summer. So thank you all. Take very good care.
Thank you, Bud.
Thanks.